Deep in the heart of the Texas wilderness, the moon cast an eerie glow over the sprawling landscape as Jacob set up his camp for the night. The crackling campfire provided a flickering light that danced on the trees, creating ominous shadows that seemed to reach out from the darkness. Alone in the wilderness, Jacob felt a mixture of excitement and trepidation. He had always been drawn to the unknown, seeking the thrill of solitude and the mysteries of the night. Little did he know, this night would bring him face to face with a terror he could never have imagined. As the fire crackled and popped, Jacob huddled in his sleeping bag, listening to the rustling of leaves and the distant calls of nocturnal creatures. He felt a shiver run down his spine as the wind whispered through the trees, carrying with it a sense of unease that seemed to settle in the air. Ignoring his growing unease, Jacob attempted to lose himself in a book, hoping to distract his mind from the growing darkness outside. Hours passed, and the fire began to dwindle, casting longer and more ominous shadows around the campsite. Jacob's heart raced as he thought he heard faint footsteps approaching from the woods. He strained his ears, the hairs on the back of his neck standing on end. Slowly, he unzipped the tent, peering out into the inky blackness. His heart sank as he saw a figure emerge from the trees. It was hunched over, with long limbs that seemed to move in unnatural ways. Jacob's breath caught in his throat as he realized that the figure wasn't human. It was something else entirely. A sense of primal fear gripped him as he watched the creature move closer to the dying firelight. The figure stepped into the light, and Jacob's blood turned to ice in his veins. Its skin was mottled and discolored, a sickly blend of human and animal. Its eyes glowed with an eerie light, reflecting the dying embers of the fire. And then he saw its face, or what was left of it. It was as if someone had stretched the skin over a distorted skull, creating a gruesome mockery of a human face. Unable to tear his gaze away, Jacob watched in horrified fascination as the creature circled the campfire. Its movements were disjointed and unnatural, like a marionette being controlled by unseen hands. Every step it took seemed to send a jolt of terror through Jacob's body. Suddenly, the creature's head snapped in Jacob's direction, its glowing eyes locking onto his. Paralyzed by fear, Jacob could only watch as the creature's lips curled into a twisted smile. It spoke, its voice a guttural and haunting whisper that seemed to come from all directions at once. "Lonely traveler," it hissed, its voice carrying a chilling resonance. "You venture into my domain." Jacob's mind raced, his heart pounding like a drum. He had heard of skinwalkers, malevolent beings with the ability to transform into animals, but he had never thought he would actually encounter one. He knew that the stories often warned of their dark intentions and the danger they posed to anyone who crossed their path. As the creature continued to circle the campfire, Jacob's instincts kicked in. He knew he needed to do something, anything, to escape the clutches of this monstrous being. Summoning his courage, he made a snap decision. With a quick, adrenaline-fueled burst of movement, he grabbed his backpack and bolted from the tent, racing into the surrounding woods. Branches scratched at his skin, and his breath came in ragged gasps as he sprinted through the darkness. He could hear the creature's unearthly laughter echoing behind him, growing louder and more taunting with each passing second. Panic gripped Jacob's chest as he felt the creature closing in on him. Just as his energy began to wane, he stumbled upon a clearing bathed in moonlight. In the center stood a circle of ancient, weathered stones. He had heard of such places, sanctuaries where the supernatural could be repelled. Desperation fueled his actions as he stepped into the circle, the stones glowing faintly in response. A guttural howl of frustration and anger pierced the night as the creature skidded to a halt just outside the circle's boundary. It paced back and forth, its eyes burning with hatred as it glared at Jacob from across the protective barrier. For what felt like an eternity, the two adversaries locked eyes, locked in a battle of wills. Then, as suddenly as it had appeared, the creature let out a final chilling scream and turned to flee into the woods, disappearing into the night. Jacob collapsed to his knees, his breath coming in heaving sobs of relief and fear. He had survived the encounter, but the memory of the skinwalker's twisted visage and haunting voice would forever haunt his dreams. As the first light of dawn painted the sky, Jacob knew he had been given a second chance at life. Gathering himself, He left the clearing behind, determined to put as much distance between himself and that cursed place.